Chaos Merchants is based on Tupac 187 by R.J. Bond and Michael Douglas Carlin. Rags to riches, money over bros and bitches. See, I made Lewis a bet here. Lewis bet me that we couldn't both get rich and put y'all in the poorhouse at the same time. $1 from Trading Places. In the 1983 movie Trading Places, two high society trust fund business magnates bet $1 that they can replace the head of their company with someone from the streets. They destroy many lives in the process of playing out their $1 bet. Perhaps it was a dollar bet between David Kenner and Reggie Wright Jr., like in the movie. Can you imagine how that conversation went? I bet I can orchestrate a flawless hit on Tupac and Suge in Las Vegas this weekend and completely turn the music industry upside down. Standard bet, $1. On the jet skiing trip to Lake Mead with Michael Moore, Reggie Wright Sr. speculated that if something ever happened to Suge, Reggie would run the record label. He told me on the lake, he goes if anything happens. If anything comes up, Reggie would be the one running the whole day in and day out operations. Suge would turn it to him. I said, even over Sharitha? He said, trust me, Sharitha is on the paper, but Reggie would carry most of the burden. It only mattered if something happened. Perhaps it was that very speculation that led to the unending chain of events that unseated Marion Hugh Knight. One thing Suge does is trust Reggie. Reggie Wright Sr. had been speculating that if something happens to Suge, his son would run the $500 million Death Row Records. Odds are pretty good that if the speculation had made it all the way to a jet ski trip on Lake Mead, that this speculation had taken root somewhere in Los Angeles. Perhaps that speculation sparked the conversation between David Kenner and Reggie Wright Jr. that put the plan in motion. In the world of gangster rap, speculation of this sort can be extremely dangerous. Gangster rap began in the streets where life is hard. The plight of the streets connected with American youth, and overnight a multi-billion-dollar industry sprang up, bringing many of these dangerous elements with it. It wasn't just a business run by the laws of capitalism. It was a hybrid of capitalism and the laws of the streets. So many of the stories have focused on the drama, beatings, and gang influence, but not enough attention has been placed on the actual business that was transacted. Gangster rap was only able to sell hundreds of millions of albums because artists recorded songs, performed at concerts, visited talk shows, and occasionally got entangled into controversy. That multi-platinum success spelled temptation to those who grew up in the ghetto, many of which were seeing albums on the charts but were not participating in the profits. The envy of Kenner and Wright Jr. was already embedded. They would attempt to take out Suge Knight, steal Tupac's music, and collect on the Lloyd's of London key man life insurance policy that was rumored to be valued at $51 million on Tupac. Looking good, David Kenner. Feeling good, Reggie Wright Jr. might have been their code to acknowledge the plan that was in place to unseat Suge Knight, taking his position, power, wealth, and prestige, but they could never duplicate the actual success Suge achieved because Reggie and Kenner were only common thieves. They could only envy him. They could never become him. Suge took the bait. They laid in wait, filled with hate. Reggie Wright Jr. would take Suge Knight's money and use all of what Suge built to take betrayal to a whole new level, acting in league with Suge's growing list of enemies. But Suge Knight engaged in some betrayals of his own. His betrayals, along with the betrayal of his best friend, all converged during a 7-month period of time that would decimate West Coast rap and hip-hop. Where to start with the trail of betrayals? Wedding vows? Was there such a thing in the music business? Business partners? Recording artists? Friends? Family? Acquaintances? Time Warner betrayed Interscope. Jimmy Iovine betrayed Tupac. Suge Knight betrayed Dr. Dre. David Kenner and Suge betrayed Michael and Lydia Harris. David Kenner betrayed Suge Knight after Suge Knight betrayed David Kenner. Suge Knight betrayed Sharitha, and then Sharitha betrayed Suge Knight. Suge Knight betrayed the DOC and Dick Griffey. Suge enlisted the DOC, Dr. Dre, and Michel'le to betray Jerry Heller and Eazy-E. Suge Knight betrayed Simone Green. Dre betrayed Suge. Tupac betrayed Lil Half Dead. Lydia Harris betrayed Suge Knight. Suge Knight betrayed Lil Half Dead. Suge Knight betrayed Snoop Dogg, and Snoop Dogg betrayed Suge Knight. But the biggest betrayal of all was Reggie Wright Jr.'s betrayal of Suge Knight. Suge Knight never betrayed his homies, Jake, Buntry, Poochie, Neckbone, or either of the Reggie Wrights. So many with that sense of entitlement felt betrayed by Suge, and they all felt he could be doing more for them. But Suge Knight was living the life. The money was rolling in. The party that started at Chasen's in Beverly Hills with Harry O's money only ended on September 7th, 1996. The drama, real or imagined, sold record albums, and Suge Knight had a knack for picking talent and putting together hit records. The industry was tailor-made for him. He was in his element, but his time at the helm was running out. One day, everybody had enough of Suge, and they all gathered together in a single act of betrayal to fire shots heard round the gangster rap world. Tupac was not the main target that night, but the gathering storm clouds also wanted him dead. If they couldn't kill Suge Knight, they would still take everything away from him. Meanwhile, things over at Death Row were on the decline. The future was looking very bleak. I knew Death Row Records would soon be a thing of the past. Everything was spiraling out of control. Rolling the dice on a Vegas fight night, you were warned not to show, to stay out of sight. You brought your girl into harm's way. Class don't mix with the streets, they say. Tupac was gunned down on the Las Vegas Strip after a Mike Tyson fight. Now, how many witnesses you need to see some shit before you arrest somebody? More people saw Tupac get shot than the last episode of Seinfeld. The government hates rap. If Billy Joel, Elton John, and David Bowie got shot, they would have Bruce Springsteen's house surrounded. You mean to tell me they can find Saddam Hussein in a hole, but you can't tell me who shot Tupac? Shit, they found Saddam Hussein in Iraq. Tupac got shot in Vegas. Chris Rock. Tupac's murder is more related to Death Row than any other theory they came up with. Michael Moore, Tupac Aftermath. I instantly thought the night Pac was shot that there has to be some involvement because of the way it went down. We were told 2 to 3 hours earlier on the night Tupac got shot not to carry our guns. We never figured out why. All of security is waiting at Club 662 for Tupac and Suge. They said Suge got shot and that Tupac had gotten shot. Confession letter to the murder of Tupac Shakur and attempt to murder Suge Knight is written in 1998 as dictated by Malcolm Patton, one of the shooters, and given to Fox 11 journalist Chris Blatchford. See below. Chris Blatchford also talks to Malcolm Patton about the murder and provides a written statement on his conversations. That letter and Blatchford's statement details that the conspiracy to commit murder began in Balboa Park, clearly giving Los Angeles jurisdiction over this case. Suge Knight and Tupac Shakur had left Suge Knight's Vegas residence at 6980 Monte Rosa and were en route with a caravan of approximately 5 to 6 luxury vehicles to Suge Knight's nightclub, 662 Club. As they stopped in front of the Maxim Casino, a white Cadillac pulled up next to Suge Knight's vehicle, BLK BMW 750. On the passenger side, the occupants, male blacks, rolled down the windows of the white Cadillac and opened fire into the rear seat area of Suge Knight's vehicle where Tupac Shakur was seated, hitting him 4 times, twice in the chest. Suge sustained a minor gunshot graze. Tupac had surgery on 9/9/96 and his right lung was removed as a result of the shooting. He is listed as critical. Speculation from tabloid publications, news media, and sources close to Death Row Records is that there is an East Coast rivalry and recording power struggle between Bad Boy Entertainment from New York, headed by Sean Puffy Combs, affiliated with LA Crips connection Mike Conception, against Suge Knight, Tupac Shakur, and Death Row Records. September 7th, 1:25 p.m. Michael Moore is relieved of responsibility to guard Tupac Shakur. September 7, 2:30 p.m. Tupac arrives in Las Vegas. September 7, 3:45 p.m. Death Row Dave tells about meeting with George Calisis and Reggie Wright Jr. at Luxor, telling him and other security not to carry a weapon. September 7, 4:50 p.m. Alexander leaves Tupac to call Reggie Wright and make arrangements to meet Suge. Michael Moore finds Tupac alone and begins guarding him. September 7, 5:20 p.m. Frank Alexander and Tupac reconnect. September 7, 5:30 p.m. People start lining up at Club 662. September 7, 6 p.m. At the Luxor Hotel, Frank and Tupac go up to the rooms to change clothes to get ready for the Tyson fight. September 7, 6:30 p.m. Reggie Wright picks this as the timestamp on the fake chain grab story that he asks Frank Alexander to tell Las Vegas police. The story was that Orlando Anderson had grabbed for Tupac's medallion, breaking the chain. Remember that there was the eye in the sky recording everything in the hotels, so that story is easily verifiable as false. 5. Bodyguard Frank Alexander was told to lie about the Orlando Anderson incident by Reggie Wright. He told investigators that Orlando had grabbed Tupac's chain earlier in the evening, breaking the chain. That incident morphed into the Orlando Anderson chain grab narrative at the Lakewood Mall. Frank Alexander came clean with Las Vegas investigators, and he was told by the Los Angeles DA's office and Death Row Records associates that his life was now in danger. Those conversations were secretly recorded by Frank Alexander. We have copies of these recordings. September 7, 7:30 p.m. Michael Moore begins receiving telephone calls making sure that he is not guarding Tupac. September 7, 8:10 p.m. Michael Moore continues receiving telephone calls making sure that he is not guarding Tupac. September 7, 8:15 p.m. Tupac and Frank Alexander are in Luxor lobby. Tupac insists that Michael Moore also guard him. Moore explains that he is not assigned to guard Tupac. September 7, 8:36 p.m. Mike Tyson knocks out Bruce Seldon. September 7, 8:45 p.m. Tupac, Suge, and Frank are waiting in Tyson's dressing room. Suge is urging them to leave. September 7, 8:49 p.m. Inside the MGM Grand, a 10-second scuffle occurs between Tupac and Orlando Anderson. The entire entourage jumps in, and within a few seconds the scuffle is over, and MGM security detains Orlando Anderson. Tupac's medallion chain breaks. September 7, 8:53 p.m. The entourage leaves the MGM and stops by the Luxor to change clothes. Frank Alexander repairs Tupac's medallion chain. September 7, 9:30 p.m. The entourage heads to Suge Knight's house. September 7, 10:33 p.m. The entourage leaves Suge Knight's house en route to Club 662. Suge asks Tupac to ride with him in a black BMW 750. Frank Alexander is asked to take Kadada Jones's Lexus and follow behind. At 10:45 p.m., Reggie Wright leaves a voicemail for Kevin Hackey. Kevin, you really fucked me over this time. You fucked me up this and that, you son of a bitch. This and that. September 7, 10:55 p.m. Tupac rolls down the window and allows a fan to take a photo. September 7, 11:10 p.m. Suge Knight is stopped by bicycle police on the Las Vegas Strip for not having license plates on the car. September 7, 11:15 p.m. On Flamingo Road near Koval Lane, a white four-door car with Nevada plates rolls up to the passenger side of the BMW. An arm emerges from the window of the car and 12 to 13 shots are fired, spraying the BMW. Malcolm Greenridge said he saw a dark-skinned arm with a black gun fire from the white Cadillac. Very deliberate in his aim. Had he been wildly shooting, he would have been able to shoot Mr. Knight as well as being a larger target. He definitely knew who he was shooting. There was no hesitation. The gun came out, and it was pop, 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 pow, as soon as the arm came out. Danny Patton, a.k.a. White Boy, said, I shot that Tupac motherfucker. I was there, man. One name, and I heard the name. I don't know if it was Gangsta White or it was something along that line. The hit was supposed to go down at the club. The target of the hit at the club was Suge Knight. Malcolm said he was the shooter that was supposed to take out Suge Knight. Danny's gun jammed. Malcolm shot twice and missed his target. Lil Half Dead was supposed to kill Tupac. Lil Half Dead was upset with Tupac because Tupac stole one of his songs. Lil Half Dead was the one that took Tupac out. Brent Becker asked Yafeo Fulu, aka Gaddafi, why the shooter would want to do this. His answer was jealousy. He further stated that the shooter's arm was dark black and that the driver was bald with a little mustache and light-skinned, but not as light-skinned as Gaddafi. He said the driver had the face of a bitch because he looked soft in the face. The person Turner saw seated right front passenger was described as a male, black, light brown skin, short hair, cut low, in his 20s, possibly late 20s. The hit team trio had rented a pearl white Cadillac at the Stratosphere Hotel, Las Vegas. Witness Hart stated that the white car was to their right and in front of them, so she was able to see the rear of the car. Hart feels that the white car had Nevada license plates, white and blue, and felt the car was possibly a rental. Hart thinks the shooting came from the driver's side of the white car and that there was 4 occupants. Turner felt the Cadillac had Nevada rear license plates with possible numbers 647. Frank Alexander says, all I saw was the arm and the gun, and right away I knew it was a Glock automatic. Frank Alexander further stated the shooter was a dark black male. I originally thought it was a 9mm, but when I went back to the crime scene, I heard it was a .40 caliber. 3 guns were used, a Tech-9, a .45, and a Glock. Turner thought that the occupants of the white Cadillac may have been shooting from both sides of the car. September 7, 11:16 p.m. 22 security personnel wait for the entourage at Club 662. Michael Moore was standing in front of Club 662 with Reggie Wright. Moore hears, got him, coming over Wright's Nextel phone. 3. Michael Moore spoke of standing next to Reggie Wright in front of Club 662 at the time of the shooting and hearing, got him, coming over the radio. A radio is significant because it implies that there were spotters as well as shooters. This also makes this just like the Biggie Smalls murder. See below. Listen, especially from 340 on. He, Noel Johnson, aka Big Spank, just spoke on him that you know he got him. While I was working at 662, I heard something over the Nextels we were carrying, and what I heard was, got him. The voice was definitely one of our security that works directly for Mr. Knight. Maybe the police should have concentrated more on death row, the Nextel phone bills, and other things that could have helped them investigate it more in depth. I would definitely look more at death row than I would look at Mr. Anderson, and that is what I gathered. When I was at New York, what I heard Pac tell Suge Knight and what I heard on the radio that night after the shots were fired. Right before me and Mr. Wright got into the vehicle to go to the hospital, someone else came on the radio and said, hey, don't say nothing over the radio. Mr. Wright and I were talking about what had happened, and I clearly heard someone say, don't say nothing over the radio. But the person that said it was not homeboy security, nor was it one of our security guards. To me, he was a stranger, but the person that said it was Caucasian, definitely not African American. M probably refers to both Tupac Shakur and Suge Knight. With 13 shots being fired, the shooters probably really thought they got him. The shooting was an immediate failure. Tupac wasn't killed, and Suge was only hit by a bullet fragment. September 7, 11:17 p.m. Suge Knight makes a U-turn on Flamingo and races west to Las Vegas Boulevard. September 7, 11:20 p.m. Las Vegas police arrive on the scene. Handed a .40 Glock, the shooter was ready to knock. According to Kevin Hackey, the gun used to kill Tupac Shakur was a Glock 40 that was confiscated by an off-duty Santa Monica police officer during a routine search at the House of Blues of Hussein Fatal, one of Tupac's outlaws, on July 4, 1996, when he is detained attempting to enter the venue with his Glock 40. In late July, Reggie Wright contacts Kevin Hackey and asks him to keep tabs on the weapon. The off-duty Santa Monica officer takes the gun back to the Santa Monica police station. The gun was then ballistics tested by the FBI and run to see if the weapon was stolen or had been used in any crimes. There were no ballistic matches at that time, so the FBI sends the weapon back to the Santa Monica police. Sometime in August of 1996, Santa Monica police contact Kevin Hackey and tell him the gun is cleared for pickup. Hackey, who was working undercover for the FBI and ATF, retrieves the gun and takes it to his handlers. They clear him to release the gun to Reggie Wright Jr. Hackey hands the gun to Reggie Wright Jr. On September 7th, 1996, the gun is used to kill rapper Tupac Shakur. When Las Vegas police book shell casings and bullets into evidence, they are sent off to the FBI where they are ballistics tested. They are run through the federal database where, according to Kevin Hackey, they match the gun confiscated at the House of Blues and given to Reggie Wright Jr. This may also be the gun that one of the shooters attempted to drop off at Fox 11 Studios to Chris Blatchford. In his deposition, Reggie Wright Jr. is asked about the gun. Kim Valentine: do you know an individual by the name of Kevin Hackey? Reggie Wright Jr.: yes. Kim Valentine: and Kevin Hackey, at one point in time, as I understand it, was a police officer. Reggie Wright Jr.: Compton Unified School Police, as I recall, yes. Kim Valentine: and did he provide services to, well, strike that. Was he ever an employee of Right Way Protective Services? Reggie Wright Jr.: yes, he was. Kim Valentine: do you recall approximately his dates of employment with Right Way Protective Services? Reggie Wright Jr.: let me see. Maybe August, September of 95? Kim Valentine: do you ever recall an occasion where any of your employees provided, your Right Way Protective Services employees ever provided you with a weapon that came from a police department? Reggie Wright Jr.: I heard that allegation before somewhere. I don't remember where. I know the incident you are speaking of, but the gun was never given back to me. Kim Valentine: so you were never provided with a weapon by any of your employees that, to your knowledge, came from a police department? Reggie Wright Jr.: no. Kim Valentine: and Kevin Hackey never provided you with a weapon that was allegedly from a police department? Reggie Wright Jr.: that's correct. You know what? That's not correct. Kim Valentine: okay. Reggie Wright Jr.: that's not correct. Kevin did give me a gun that was taken from... It was an incident where a gun was taken from... We had a concert or something. It was taken from one of the artists that was with us. And one of the other security guys took and held the gun, and somehow I think him and Kevin hooked up, and he gave the gun back to Kevin Hackey. I remember me and Kevin meeting about it, and Kevin telling me he was going to give me the gun. I don't ever remember receiving the gun back from him. I remember the incident, but I don't remember if I got the gun or what happened to the gun. Kim Valentine: did you ever send Hackey to go get the gun? Reggie Wright Jr.: I told Kevin to go meet with the guy. I think it was a Santa Monica or LAPD cop. I don't know. I don't remember too much about it. Kevin probably gave it back to the guy that he took it from. I don't know. Kim Valentine: do you know who he took it from? Reggie Wright Jr.: it was either Tupac or one of his boys. Kim Valentine: do you know what type of gun that was? Reggie Wright Jr.: it was a Glock, a .40 caliber. Kim Valentine: why did you tell Kevin to go get this gun from the police officer? Reggie Wright Jr.: I was going to give the gun back to the owner of it. Kim Valentine: who was the owner of it? Reggie Wright Jr.: who? It was somebody we were supplying security for. One of the guys. It was one of Tupac's boys. Somebody that was with Tupac. I don't know which one it was. Kim Valentine: was there ever an occasion where any of your police officers ever provided you with any other weapon other than the one we were just discussing? Reggie Wright Jr.: no. Kim Valentine. So you ultimately never got the gun from Kevin Hackey? Reggie Wright Jr. I don't remember that because I don't know what I did with the gun if I got it, but I do remember some discussions about that now. I was wondering what the heck you were talking about. Chris Blatchford once again intersects with the story when he interviews Frank Alexander and Kevin Hackey. He said that once I gave him that firearm, that he gave it to his daddy, who at the time was a lieutenant with the Compton Police over the gang division. He said his daddy booked that firearm into property, which is really and truly far-fetched. About 6 months after Tupac's murder, Reggie told me, "You know, at any given time, I have the money, I have the people, and I could have you killed at any given time." Peace truce. Was it just a ruse? There was a gang summit in Balboa Park. The gangs in attendance included ICG, that's Long Beach Insane Crip Gang. Gear Gang equals West Adams District of South Los Angeles. Ghost Town equals Crips in Venice. Front Street equals Watts Crips. 52 equals 5 Deuce at 52nd Street and South Broadway. A Tri Hoovers equals 8 Trey Hoovers minus 83rd Hoovers. And South Park, 51st and Avalon. All of these are Crip sets. White Boy is listed as Lueders Park Pyru, which would make this a Blood Crip hit. Reggie Wright is also affiliated with the Bloods, and if you are going to take over Death Row Records by killing Suge Knight, both of which are clearly affiliated with the Bloods, you would want to reach outside to the Crips. Confidential informant Robert Soraya says, Sharitha Knight and Reggie Wright are behind the murder. First, there was a get-together in Balboa Park in the San Fernando Valley for different gangs, disguised as a Blood Crips truce meeting, but was really a feeler for Wright to see how much it would take to get Tupac hit. Wright wanted rights to all of Tupac's material. On the night of Tupac's murder, Wright told the killers where Tupac and Suge would be. Those not in on the plan were sent to the 662 Club in Las Vegas. The hitmen hired to do the job were Little Half Dead, Danny Patton, and Malcolm Patton. Danny was paid $100,000 for the hit in the form of a cashier's check. Danny signed the check. A bounty was put on Tupac and Knight. Mr. Wright Jr. gave info where Tupac was going to be. Robert Soraya tells of videotape that exists of the meeting in Balboa Park. Chris Blatchford tells of hearing an audio tape of the confession. Soraya claims he still has that audio tape along with the videotape in a safe place. According to all three sources, Reggie Wright Jr. asks for help in taking out both Tupac Shakur and Suge Knight. Soraya says that David Kenner was also at the gang summit. At that summit, it was decided that Donald Smith, aka Little Half Dead, Malcolm Patton, and Danny Patton, aka White Boy, would be the shooters. Robert Soraya says David Kenner was at the meeting with gangs. I was the shooter that was told to take Knight out, Malcolm Patton. I know there were some other Southside guys there in Las Vegas at the time of Tupac's murder too, but I never saw them. These are the footnotes for Part 6. It's a web link, http www.apnewsarchive.com, 1998, Snoop Doggy Dogg leaves record company. Another one is archive.entertainmentwise.com/news/165037, Suge Knight rap feuds Tupac Biggie Smalls. FBI files released under the Freedom of Information Act. Report is dated 1/6/2003. Kevin Hackey interview with LAPD detectives Miller and Poole, 5/12/1998. Russell Poole interview with Death Row Dave. Phoenix New Times, Reeling and Dealing by Dave Wilenga, November 28, 1996. Vibe Magazine, February 1998. Las Vegas Sun, The Death of Tupac Shakur 1 year later by Kathy Scott. Russell Poole tape-recorded interview with Death Row Dave on February 6, 2014. Frank Alexander interview by Russell Poole, April 28, 1998. Russell Poole tape-recorded interview with Death Row Dave on February 6, 2014. Have Gun, Will Travel. The Spectacular Rise and Violent Fall of Death Row Records by Ronan Rowe. Frank Alexander's secret tape recordings of his telephone calls in the aftermath of Tupac Shakur's murder. Chris Blatchford's statement of Russell Poole about the confession letter. Russell Poole interview with Death Row Dave. Frank Alexander's secret tape recordings of his telephone calls in the aftermath of Tupac Shakur's murder. Washington Post, Gangster Rap brought Suge Knight wealth and lots of trouble. Now he's singing a different tune. June 17, 2007 by Teresa Wiltz. Phoenix New Times, Reeling and Dealing by Dave Wailenga, November 28, 1996. Kevin Hackey interview with LAPD detectives Miller and Poole, 5/12/1998. Frank Alexander, secret tape recordings of his telephone calls in the aftermath of Tupac Shakur's murder. Chris Blatchford's statement to Russell Poole about the confession letter. Tupac Shakur's murder confession letter received by Chris Blatchford on June 5, 1998 and given to Michael Carlin by Chris Blatchford on March 6, 2014. Chris Blatchford's statement to Russell Poole about the confession letter. YouTube video, Tupac bodyguards speak out about murder. Frank Alexander telephone conversation with Michael Moore on secret tapes. John Potash has posted the entire MGM surveillance video. Letter from law offices of Robert J. Frank and Associates, LLC, to FBI agent Phil Carson on April 15, 2004. The Notorious B.I.G., a biography by Holly Lang. Frank Alexander telephone conversations with Michael Moore on secret tapes. Kevin Hackey interview with LAPD detectives Miller and Poole, 5/12/1998. Russell Poole tape-recorded interview with Death Row Dave on February 6, 2014. Russell Poole interview of Death Row Dave. Frank Alexander's secret tapes. Washington Post, Gangster Rap brought Suge Knight wealth and lots of trouble. Now he's singing a different tune. June 17, 2007 by Teresa Wiltz. Frank Alexander's secret tape recording in the aftermath of Tupac's murder. Michael Moore tells Frank about Norris on Frank Alexander's secret tape recordings of his telephone conversations. Larry lets Frank know what Maria said on Frank Alexander's secret tape recordings of his telephone conversations. Footnote 234 is Kevin Hackey interview with LAPD detectives Miller and Poole, 5/12/1998. 235 and 236 are Frank Alexander's secret tape recordings of his telephone calls in the aftermath of Tupac Shakur's murder. And 237 is Frank Alexander's secret tapes recorded in the aftermath of Tupac's murder. This concludes Chaos Merchants Part 6. Stay tuned for Part 7. Subscribe to be notified.